kune urongwa hwedemonstration hwatatarisana nawo musi wa4 April wagadzirirwa kuti hunge huchinoitwa. Naizvozvo muri Zimbabwe tiri kuti makadii matima nenyika Zimbabwe kusangana zvakare pano pachivhitivhiti paTV yenyu patinokupai nyaya nemalatest updates anenge achiitika munyika yeZimbabwe. Mamiriro azvakaita ndeyekuti Douglas Mwanzola uyo ari kulidha MDCT ane chimwe chinhambwe chafunga kutora panyaya yeproposed constitutional bill number 3 apo pari kutaura kuti iye taona zvakakodzera kuti tinge tichinoita demonstration musi wa4 achitaura kuti iye ane mamembers epati yake avo varikuda kuti vaite demonstration vachange vachisangana paAfrican Unity Square vachimacha through the capital. Ende nyaya iyoyoyo yaziviswa kupolisi hatisati tanzwa respondi kubva kwavari kuti vari kumboti chii, but according to Zimbabwe breaking news vari kuchiti the Douglas Mwanzola lead movement for democratic change has formally notified at the Zimbabwe Republic Police of its intention to hold a peaceful demonstration on 4 April 2026 to protest the proposed constitutional amendment Bill number 3, with the party members set to gather at Africa Unity Square before marching through the capital. So muri Zimbabwe ndimamira zvakaita zvita zvinomira zvakanaka, so ndo zvavaronga kuti vachiite. Zvisinei tichakusiya makateera kubva kumacomrades edu ndo vane imwe hurukuro nyaya hombe pano.
Lovely space you're having here. The main issue that I want to raise here is the issue relating to constitutional interpretation. Now, we have a big crisis that we are arguing over, interpretations which are coming from Jongwe building, whereas constitutional interpretation is an exact science. It's not something that you just wake up and start, spinning and saying or what. It's an exact science. And over here, what we have now with this bill here is the conflicting versions of how to interpret it. But our legal system, as any other constitutional legal system, have a method for determining which interpretation should and will be followed and must be followed, right? Now, a lot of people have been ignoring section 46 of the Constitution, right? Which basically gives us the parameters and the method by which we conduct this science. Now, section 46 dictates that when interpreting the law, the courts must prefer the interpretation that most effectively protects and promotes fundamental human rights and freedoms. Now, in this particular instance, if we look at the term extension and, of course, the election of the president, those two particular ones, here we have people saying, oh, we need to extend the term of the president. And because of this, because of the chaos, because of the drama that results from constant elections and whatnot. And then we have another group saying, you know what, this extension is unconstitutional. It breaks democratic values. It does all sorts of things which are not in line with the foundation of our constitution. Now, when you're interpreting that, you interpret you select the version which best promotes the constitution and the intention of the founders. So the interpretation here, ZANU-PF, is absolutely flawed because it weakens democratic values. It weakens our accountability. It weakens, the people's right to elect their leaders, in particular the president. So when we are interpreting, let us not say wangomuka makuseni wotanga kutaura zvinhu zvemusoro wako and then you're saying A, B, C, D because idi haana kupedza ma-projects. That has nothing to do with the Constitution. The Constitution clearly states, even from our very preamble, says we must promote the foundations of democracy. This is in our preamble. In section 46, it says one interpretation which promotes our rights. In particular, in this case, our right to vote. And if we do not, if we take this up further and go to the Constitutional Court, which is then not just has a duty to interpret this, but has a is bound by law to favor the interpretation that promotes the values of democracy. Extending a term limit has nothing to do with promoting democracy and our values. And the founders of this constitution, which is not just in the founder, whoever was there when the thing was, is the people themselves, us. We don't want when we approve this constitution, we specifically said that's why it's such a difficult thing with the section 28. We specifically said, "Mungaite 5 years, 2 terms, or end." We want to elect directly the president, not directly accountable to us. Because if you look at how this can play out with the ways NPF does things, if you're gonna have parliamentarians voting for the president, we have narrowed down targets which can be susceptible to individual influence, to corporate influence. You're going to have a corporate president who can easily bribe, I don't know, 300 or so people in parliament, and then boom, we don't have any power anymore. We can only go to our MP who will have no power over an executive president who is elected by a parliament that cannot control him. That's fundamentally flawed, and the argument there is it shouldn't even exist if we are going to talk about a democratic society, because if you're going to favor the interpretation, yes, I'm a PF, we are saying the constitution is going to start evolving to a place where it's no longer serves its purpose. And speaking of purpose, the purposive approach is how, I mean, some are calling it the basic structure doctrine, which the Zimbabwean courts don't particularly follow. But then they follow it in a different way. The purposive approach, when interpreting, what was the purpose of this provision? Because the purpose of this provision was to ensure that we've got a democratic, regular elections, to ensure that our president is accountable, right? So when interpreting it, are we serving the purpose of the constitution? Because once we do not serve the purpose of the constitution and now start extending people's terms, changing delimitation rules, election of the president, and so forth, the purpose of the constitution, it just becomes another piece of paper. If we follow that line of thoughts or line of interpretation. So as I land, let's look at both interpretations of how we are looking at it and see clearly which interpretation is favoring democracy, which interpretation is favoring the rights of the people to choose their own leaders, which interpretation is favoring executive accountability. It's quite clear. So the debate shouldn't even be going beyond that. But of course, we are Zimbabweans, and of course we have to engage on the matter. But then to proceed with this bill in its entirety is a fundamental distortion of constitutional values and the destruction of the constitution itself, because it now loses its value. Its purpose is no longer existing. The purpose is gone if we start saying parliament can elect the president and not the people. The whole purpose of that democracy, which is stated in our preamble, which is provided in section 46, in section 95, and 328 subsection 7, it completely falls away and democracy weakens. It does not strengthen. Many thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dan. Tex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Proceed, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dan. I think that was a very powerful submission, and I also want us to think about some of the things that he raised, especially around people that are talking about we want him to finish his projects and to continue. So the question that I have for other people who will also be coming to share your perspectives is, what does that finishing even look like? And when you say I'm done now with my projects, when is that, and how does that finishing of projects look like? Because we don't have a definition of what finishing means, and what midway means. We don't have a definition that the entire nation actually shares. So it would be good to also hear what other people think around that. Then number two is also thing of finishing process. It's also important as we share here that we also speak to how a government actually works. Because again, when we say somebody has to finish their projects, is it like the president is the one who has to do those projects, or is the work of government? And what does government actually look like beyond ED, the person? Because it almost also seems like we are centralizing this thing on a person, say he should be there to finish what he has started, as if he is government. And also to be historical with our view, saying that he did this, then Ian Smith would have also extended his term by maybe 50 years, because he also built roads, he also did this. And comrades went to war and fought against him and defeated him despite the buildings, the roads that he had built, because it's more than that. And the argument that Dan is bringing to say we must look for the option that best protects the human rights. So this option that this bill is taking, and the option of it's unconstitutional, which one really saves the fundamental rights? So I'm going to call upon Chaka, and make sure as you also make your submission, you speak to some of these points. People saying he must continue with the projects that he has started, and people also saying this actually decimates the human rights, and it doesn't save the human rights of the people, and it actually destroys our democracy. So it would be good that you weigh in around those continuing and the destruction of our democracy. Chaka, are you there? Chaka is not here. If Chaka is not here, I will go